This is a video tutorial for Can Animate. You can find it using the spotlight function, which is the magnifying glass in the top right hand corner. You type Can Animate, it should come up. It's a piece of stop motion software that allows you to take pictures, one after another, and animate them together as though they were a video. Once you've opened the software, you'll see whichever cameras are available, depending upon the camera that's built in or the one that's actually been plugged in via USB, which is what we've done here. So what we're now looking at is a USB camera that's been plugged in and a piece of the table. And what I'm going to do is take a series of pictures using this envelope and a piece of plasticine, which will be animated to come out of the envelope and move around the table and disappear out of view. Now, dependent upon how many frames you want in your animation per second, will determine how smoothly it runs. So if you have 30 frames, you'll have the picture updated 30 times per second. The default on this is set to about 20, so that's what we're going to work with right now. So you can see the plasticine I've now put on the table. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move that slightly. You can see my hands, so you can see where I'm actually going to move it. Now I'm going to move it from inside the envelope, it'll be pressed flat, and it will then, one by one, move its way out of the envelope and out of shot. So what I'm now doing is I've scrunched it up, putting it inside the envelope and setting the position up. What I now need to do is take some frames. I can do that very quickly by clicking on the camera, and that's taken a picture. Now to start, I'm going to take a few of those, so let's take say 5, and that will be our starting position. And now what I'm now going to do is go back to it and move it slightly, so you can see now my hands are that are sat on top of the original image, so you can see I've moved it slightly, and now I'll take another picture. Once I've done that, I will then go back and I will move it slightly again. So now I'm going to go back and you'll see my hands again on top of the original picture, and you can see the plasticine has this ghosting effect where you can see where it's been moved and where it was previously. So as I move it each time, you can see how far I'm moving it along. And what will happen is I'll keep doing this, I'll move it around, and as I do that I'll squish it back up into a ball again so it makes it look like it's rolling off of the screen. So each time I take a picture, you can see in the list of frames it updates. If you're unhappy, you could delete a particular one. It's important to make sure that your hands are moved out of the picture before you take it. If I take a picture with my hand in the middle, you'll see the hand on the picture, which is no good for animation. So now I'm just going to move it further along the envelope. And as I do that, you'll see that it's turned more into a ball shape. Obviously, you need to be careful to make sure that when you move things, your backgrounds don't move too much or your objects don't move too much, otherwise it will ruin the illusion of the animation. So you can see the envelope has moved slightly, but not enough to really ruin it. So each time I'm just going in, I'm taking the picture, I'm moving the plasticine slightly. Now I'm going to take a picture of my hand. So now I've taken a picture of my hand, and if we were to play that, you'd see it was there. Instead, all I'm going to do is delete that. So if I highlight the frame, which I've done here, and then just press delete or backspace, and that will remove it. Now I can go back and take the next picture in the sequence. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll continue to move it, take a picture, and move it slightly again, and again take another picture. And the more of these you do, the longer your animation will run for, but the more detailed it will appear. So if you do slight movements, it will look more fluid when you actually come to playing it back. So here we go. So I'm just moving a few over, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the ball off of the shot completely, so it's disappeared from view, and then I'll play that back and you'll see how long that's run for and how good the animation looks, or bad as the case may be. So now I'm just going to move it slightly out, and again be careful of your shadows as well. If you're stood too close, your shadow will be picked up in the shot as well. So there we go. So I've moved that out of frame completely, and now if I go to play this, I will have a number of frames that play one after the other that will give me a sense of movement, and there we have it. So that's about 30 frames, which lasts about 1.5 to 2 seconds. So you can think of how many frames you're going to need for 30 seconds, but you can take your time to do this. So as you can see, I'm playing it backwards and forwards by going through each of the individual frames. You can see how the movement occurs. And now what I want to do is I want to think about how I'm going to turn that into a video. I need to now export that so I can open it somewhere else and edit it by adding sound and things. So to do that, what I need to do is I need to turn it into a video format. And I can do that by clicking Export Movie and selecting the screen size that's appropriate. Again, the important thing to do is make sure you save it somewhere you can find it, and make sure you give it a name that tells you what the file is, because if you don't name it correctly, you won't be able to find it that easily again. So I've now exported that. That will now export that to the desktop, and now you should see on the desktop I have a video format, which I can now preview. And now what I can do with that video is I can open that into a video editing package like iMovie or Movie Maker, and I will use this to then add sound and other special effects to. And bear in mind that the more of this you do, the more detailed your animation will appear. The last thing for you to do is to actually save the file. We need to make sure we save it as something that we can find again. If you're halfway through your animation, you need to make sure you save it so that we can go back. You can do that very easily by clicking on File, Save, give it a name again, and then if you open the actual file that you've saved, you'll see that it opens I Can Animate straight away, and you can continue with your work wherever you last left off.